Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the writer of the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today I'm back taking a look at a very intriguing post that I found circulating on social networks. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days ago. I'm finally getting around to discussing it. I'm not going to try to drag this out because it is a topic that I like to talk about from time to time. Because, like I said, if we can't analyze this particular topic, then we can't really get to the bottom of what's going on in Brazil these days in terms of the racial situation. I've always said, and it's always been shown that one of the pillars of the idea that Brazil doesn't have any race problem is this. We'll say this relatively high rate of interracial marriage or just interracial unions that lead to numerous, obviously millions of people who have several origins, in terms of their ethnicity or their race. For years, this wasn't even a question. It was just kind of accepted, like, okay, here in Brazil, we mix. And you people in the north who don't mix, that's your problem. That makes you racist. But as I've said, over particularly the last 10 to 15 years, this idea has been more scrutinized by more Black Brazilians, particularly those who enter the university settings, and they start to look at race and racism in Brazil from a different perspective. They put it more under a magnifying glasses because they've done studies, they've taken classes, they've gotten master's, PhDs in certain areas where they want to analyze this particular facet of Brazilian society, and problematize it a little bit more. Now, the battle cry that Black Brazilian women have had for a number of years now is the idea that Black Brazilian men don't want them. They stampede over Black women to get to white girls. They will have a type of friends with benefits relationship with Black women because they're quote unquote not ready to be in a relationship, but then they'll cut things off with a Black woman and then appear publicly holding hands with a white woman. So these are all of the things that we hear. Black women have been talking about this for a number of years. The famous phrase of a solidão da mulher negra, meaning the loneliness of the Black woman. Black women have complained for many years that they're often the last choice on the, I guess the woman menu in terms of the men who want to establish long-term relationships with them. Now, the media has given Black women this platform for a number of years, and you generally haven't heard a lot of what Black men have to say about this topic. And for years, I just listened to the one side. And as I said, I always, in order to really get to the crux of a matter, you do have to listen to what more than one side is saying, whatever that topic is. So even in the midst of all those years, hearing continuously on just, tens of thousands, I don't know, thousands and thousands of just comments that you will find online, and this same accusation being made. But at the same time, when I was looking at the other side, I was seeing other opinions that was coming out. I was like, well, we do have to consider this. How can we just look at one side and determine this is true based on what one side is saying? So a number of Black men have been pushing back on this topic, saying it's not as simple as that. Some people have said and made the point like, look, both the minds and the mindset of both Black men and women coming up in Brazil has been colonized by European standards. So the question is, how is it that people want to believe that it's only Black men's minds who have been colonized when Black women grew up under the same system, right? So this is why a number of people that I've talked to about this matter, particularly Black males in Brazil, they've had other words to say, like it's just not that simple. One of these days, I got to go back to one of my friends who calls himself JJ, because he's been very vocal about how he sees this. He's like, Black women have just taken this issue they've taken it to academia, they've gotten it in the media, and black men haven't really been able to speak their piece on this side. And that's something that I really want to explore because, as I said, to really get to the crux of the matter, you do need to hear both sides. Um, so when I came across this piece a few days ago, I says, okay, I definitely have to cover this because the way it was reviewed on an Instagram channel, I wasn't quite comfortable just taking one explanation of this post that somebody made, because I says, okay, there's more to it than that. So I can agree, but I also agree that there's more to it than what some people may think. So let me get into this because I know I'm rattling on, and I want to get directly to this article and what some people had to say about it. So I'm calling today's piece, Black Women, It's Your Fault That You Don't Have Black Men. And the question is, why do prosperous Black people become white or behave like whites? This is saying when they come into economic stability or they prosper financially, a lot of people say that Black Brazilians will adapt the same attitude, particularly towards other Black people, that they accuse white people of having. So this was a post that was made by, looks like the guy is a rapper, maybe a DJ, and it's based on a post that he made on, I guess, on his Instagram page, some time ago, and it just started circulating online. And I says, okay, let me go ahead and talk about this. So this photo, this post is taken from the profile of MCVC OFC. And as I said, this guy has almost 15,000 followers on Instagram. Says he's a DJ, an MC, a songwriter, and a producer. So what did he say? This is what is written here. You notice he's posed with this white girl right here. But what does his comment right here say? It says, dude, you all need to understand that Black women don't give any attention to us who are Black men, the white girls who are in love with us. The fault of us not having Black women is that of Black women themselves. That's a pretty hot potato right there. I mean, basically he's saying, and just to be fair, as I said, looking at both sides, I have some people who have said that, when I've tackled this topic in a previous video, where some people, and it's not just, there's literally tens of thousands, millions of comments online. And this is a comment that I come across from time to time when this whole topic comes up. Black women say, you men don't want us, you want the white girls. And then Black men will push back and say, well, you guys only want Black men unless they only want a certain type of Black man. They say is the preto tipo A, saying like the top type of Black man. He's financially stable, he's good looking, he's tall, he's attractive. They don't want just the average Black man. This is what Black men are saying, and we'll see this as we go on in this article. So let me get into this. So after this guy MCVC made this comment, and I'm not going to say it went viral. There were just a couple of platforms that I noticed were discussing what he said. And this guy, Vonderson Dutch, what he calls himself, you find him online also. And so he's asking the question in another direction. He says, why do Black people, when they grow economically, become white or behave like whites? Not everyone follows this path, he's saying. It's worth remembering. But look at Frantz Fanon. He said the following in his book, Black Skin, White Mask. Okay, so Frantz Fanon, his work has been dissected and studied and researched for a number of years in Brazil. Since more people have gotten interested in how race functions in Brazilian society, a lot of people have turned to Fanon's work to discuss this issue. Let me see if I can find a couple. Like, for example, here, this was a spectacular, like a dance company put on a show, a theater piece based on Fanon's Black Skin, White Masks. So all of these articles that I'm putting down here have discussed Frantz Fanon in one way or another. So as we can see, there's a lot of discussion, particularly of the book Black Skin, White Masks, which has been translated into Portuguese as Pele Negra, Máscaras Brancas. This book was re-released. I don't remember the year, but anywhere from 5 to 10 years ago, they re-released this book. I was kind of curious, just as other people were, as to why they chose these certain images to put on the cover of this Frantz Fanon classic. I mean, you're looking at these extreme stereotype images of what's supposed to be black people. Reminds me of the Spike Lee film Bamboozled from, I think that was 1999. Frantz Fanon's work continues to be very important, but I'm just curious as to why they re-released the book with these images here. So anyway, he's talking about Fanon. He said the following in his book, Black Skin, White Masks. As he relates to society, he realizes that the standard of existence of respect for humanity is you being white, and he is not. As he is not, he will behave as such. He wants to live, he wants to exist, talking about, the black person. That is why he chooses, consciously or unconsciously, to behave like whites. He will look within this racialized, violent, artificial society to humanize his existence. So, when we discuss the minds of black folks, the souls of black folks, a lot of people turn to Frantz Fanon's work because it applies to many situations of people who descend from enslaved Africans who were taken throughout the Americas. So, what is the guy's name again? Vonderson Dutch. He goes on. He says he will look for trophies that will guarantee respect and humanity. And here you can understand this trophy in several ways, whether you marry a white person, whether you have millions in your account to say that you have won in life and left the whining zone. He says marrying a black person is a political act. Marrying a black person when you're a black person is a revolutionary act. You're not obligated to anything. So this whole idea, this is something that has been discussed in the Afro-Brazilian community for a few years now. This idea in a country that has promoted interracial marriage in order to get rid of brown and darker skinned black people in Brazil, the solution for elites was to mix the population. So as I've seen this in numerous families, Brazilian families over the years, people have acknowledged that their parents or their grandparents pushed them to say, hey, look, it's no good, marrying another black person. You need to get you a white girl, get you a white boy, and, try to improve the race. So what they're saying, and this has been a discussion that's been going on, for about a decade, this need for black people in Brazil to get together, to marry themselves. So they can say it's a revolutionary act because we've been taught otherwise. We've been taught to pursue white partners. All right. So let me see. Okay, yeah. So Kenya Maria and her husband, the actor Érico Braz. This is the same thing that they said. Marriage between blacks is a political act. Kenya Maria discusses her marriage with actor Érico Braz and how blacks are taught to appreciate the Aryan type. So this is a couple here. I don't even know. I know they had separated for a while. I don't know. I know they got back together. Don't know if they're still a couple, but for a while, everybody knew who was Érico Braz and his wife, Kenya Maria. They had this very popular YouTube channel back in the day where they were questioning why so many Brazilian commercials didn't feature black people. It's like, okay, black people use butter, black people use soap. How come you don't use us in these commercials? So the two of them, plus their 2 or 3 kids that they made their own YouTube channel to, bring this into question. Like, hey, we consume the same products that white people do. How come you don't feature us more in TV commercials? So they started making their own type of television commercials on YouTube. This is something we're going to be talking about that, it's a very popular topic on the channel, talking about palmitagem. Again, to define the definition of palmitagem is when people believe that certain black people prefer to have long-term relationships and reproduce and get married with white people. So just the titles alone will tell you this is all what this is all about, the discomfort in thinking about race and race relations. Palmitagem is a very big relationship of self-hate. Love has no color. Well, palmitagem is not just about affections. So these are all articles that have talked about the whole palmitagem, palmiteiro discussion that's been going on, for years in Black Brazil's just say social networks, right? What else do we have here? Okay, I'm going to come back to this. Let me continue the article that I was reading here. Let me see. You're not okay. So now it would be interesting for you to question, investigate your dislike for another black person, right? When you are a black person. So the way this guy analyzed the post by MCVC is to say, why are you acting like a white person? You've adopted the same ideals that white people have had about black people for centuries. And he's asking, why don't you investigate how you don't like other black people when you yourself are a black person? So I've heard this argument for a long time, and I'm not denying that it has validity. I do believe that there's still situations where a lot of Black Brazilians do just internally, they've been taught to appreciate more people who are close to white or those who are in fact white. Just to consider this perspective, I wanted to take a look at what's this MCVC's Instagram page, just to consider, some people may say that, black people have been indoctrinated to prefer whiteness. And this may or may not be true. I don't think it holds true in necessarily every case, but I will say that when you take a cruise through MCVC's Instagram page, you see quite a few women who might be considered white. If they might not be, even if you could say these women are not considered white in the United States, I'd say this woman is at the right. How do you see these women? Do you see them as white, or do you see them as Latinas or whatever, whiter skin Latinas? But then, you continue to scroll down his page, you got plenty of rump shaking on his channel. Okay, I see a black girl right there. But when you scroll down and just look at the majority of what the women look like in his on his Instagram page, and you see quite a few women who you would probably classify as white, or Latinas who fall closer to the white side of the spectrum. And there's another black girl right there, I'd say. I mean, and not to say, obviously this is what he's posting on his Instagram page. This is what he's into. I'm not really critiquing what he's into. Obviously, you get an idea what he's into by looking at some of the videos that he has, where I'm not even going to click on them, but I'm saying, it's not even a question of, featuring the woman's face. In a couple of, of the videos here, you have faces, okay, but you mostly getting you get a lot of videos of women on here twerking. So, I'm saying, what is that his preference? That's only for him to say. I'm going to say that most of the women that I see on his Instagram page definitely fall on the whiter side of the Latina look or the Brazilian look, right? But on the other hand, I can't buy it 100% because every case is different. You might have situations where, yeah, the black people have internalized white beauty and been taught to prefer whiteness. But then you also have the other side. If black women can say, well, black men ignore us, they stampede over us to get the white girls. But can we deny that in some cases on the other side, it's also true that black women pursue white men in perhaps pursuit of a better life, or what they associate with a better life coming in the form of a white male? Anybody who's hung out in beaches, in Rio de Janeiro and other parts of the country, a lot of people talk about this. You go to some of some of the nice beaches in Rio, and I've had more than just a few, men who have visited the country be like, I noticed that some of you got some just beautiful, drop dead, gorgeous black women, and they'll be hanging on the beach with these just basic looking white men, whether they be Brazilian or foreigners hanging out in Brazil. So there's constantly people pointing the finger at each other. The black women say it's the black men's fault. The black men say it's the black women's fault. I did a video some months ago where it was just talking about how black men and black men and Brazilian black men and black women consistently point the finger at each other, accusing the other of having a preference for white partners. So I'm not here to say that I have all the answers. I'm saying all of these different responses to this question have been coming out for years. And I think every side has a little bit of a point, has a little bit of validity. We just can't say, well, how many people are just affected by the idea of pomitaging, the preference for whiteness? And how many people are just saying, look, I've preferred a black man or a black woman. They never give me the time of day because they're pursuing white people. So I'm just saying, I've heard both sides. How can we say which influence is bigger here? All I can say is, I have to respect both sides, right? Now, Alan Sawadis is somebody I've followed for a number of years. He's one of the co-founders in Brazil of what's called the Movimento Black Money, the Black Money movement, where him and his partner, Nina Silva, have created a company that's trying to give Black people incentives to support Black businesses, to have, long-lasting relationships with other Black people and raise Black families and Black children. So they always have talked about this race issue for a minute. It's something that's going to be kind of difficult to implement in Brazil for a number of reasons, but I respect them and I admire their efforts. Okay, so this is Alan Soares. This is what he had to say about the topic. He says, Fanon, again, Frantz Fanon, addressed the issue of Black identity and subjectivity in a society marked by racial oppression. He argued that racism and colonialism create a power structure that places the Black in a position of inferiority and subordination. Fanon argued that a racist society inculcates in the Black a feeling of inferiority and degradation, leading him to desire and value the standards of beauty, culture, and power associated with whites. This internalization of racism creates an internal conflict in the identity of the Black person, as he or she is pressured to deny his own cultural and racial heritage. We need to be attentive, prepared to reject simplistic discourses, and focused on providing collective change. It is our duty to build a new consciousness and a new identity for Blacks. So, in those few lines, you can see what, his whole ideology is all about. And so he actually posted the video by Vonderson Dutch. That's the video of the guy who was talking. And he says, follow him for more political or philosophical insights. Okay. So I already played, the video where I was reading what Vonderson Dutch had to say about this whole topic. And I'm saying, again, I'm not saying he's wrong. I agree with him. I'm just saying we also have to respect the other side that says, look, I'm not a Black man that is this height. I don't earn this type of money. I don't drive this type of car. So Black women don't give me the time of day. We can't ignore that a lot of Black men in Brazil actually feel that way. So then let's get to the comments. What are the people saying? The first comment says, understanding this for me has totally transformed my way of looking at love relationships, and not everyone will understand this. Oh, but is it my fault that I love a white person? I don't know if that's supposed to be sarcastic. But he says, the person says, this vision of romantic love that the colonizer put in our head tires me. A relationship for me is a serious thing. It is much more than this idealized passion that we get sick and we find it beautiful to live, even search for. A relationship is political, it's politics. It is a partnership to create empire. God forbid I have to explain unconscious bias and microaggression to a white husband. Okay, so apparently this person is married to a white partner also. Okay, now, one thing I do have to point out that, a lot of people have the opinion that, hey, what do you have to contribute to this discussion when you're married to a white partner? And I can't dismiss people who might be married to white partners. You never know what their reasoning might be for. Their reasoning could be they waited all their lives to find the perfect Black partner or somebody who they could get along with, and it just never happened. That doesn't mean they automatically stop becoming Black. I've known a couple of people myself who are married across racial lines, but they still remain firm in their Blackness. It's just, okay, how long do I have to wait if I can't click with a certain woman in my own race or man in my own race? So all I'm saying is we can't automatically dismiss someone's opinion because they happen to be married to a white person. Definitely have to say that. 2, this is the second comment. They just forget that money, white women, and status will never make you white. Nothing else needs to be said about that. Third comment, what bothers me about the narrative is that Blacks with money want to take the position of a white. I understand that my desires, financial goals have to do with my effort, my work, the deserving being. I am Black, and as you say in Wakanda, I want my rightful place. Black can also be rich. Yes. Fourth comment, I don't think it's a boring subject. It's necessary. I don't intend to marry again, but if it happens, it will not be for politics or revolution. I may have friends or allies with a common cause, the same motivation, the same goals. I'm sure that's not what makes a relationship last. And if it's not going to last, why get married? Fifth comment, I think it's boring too. In some cases, they mean irritating, like this is getting on my nerves. How about each one take care of their own lives and respect the individual choices of each one? Miscegenation is always welcome, period. That's an intriguing comment because why is miscegenation always welcome? And for who implanted this idea that miscegenation is always welcome? I remember some years ago, I had a friend of mine who was studying at the University of Campinas in Campinas, Sao Paulo, and she said to me, "Look, Mark, you can't really question interracial relationships in academia because they love interracial relationships." I mean, that fact alone, it should make you ask, like, okay, well, why is that? If it's not part of the agenda that says we need to get rid of brown and black skinned people, okay. The sixth comment, man, I always wanted a black woman next to me. I already related, and I know the movement. I know the struggle and the prejudice we went through. But the one who wanted to follow my side and get together with a lot of force was a white guy. I spent a lot of time wondering about it myself. However, he was the one who really showed up to fight with me. I'm trying to, because I look like I made some errors here with the translation. I can't tell if this is a woman speaking or a man speaking. Either way, they're talking about their white partner. It says, I'm happy with him or her, that and fact, but I don't stop fighting in our fight. She knows my position against racism and understands that well too. What do you say, brother? Best wishes, or they say abrazos, like hugs. 7. Unfortunately, I have to agree. Well, the previous comment that says a lot also. It just seems like, they always were looking for a black partner, but that person never came along and they found, what they were looking for in a white partner, right? 7, let me get into number 7, the seventh comment. Unfortunately, I have to agree. The black woman complains about the interracial relationship, but when she arrives in an environment frequented by black guys who visibly do not have good acquisitive conditions, they shrug their shoulders. I speak properly because I felt it up close countless times. I grew up in the periphery, the periphery with, a lot of people say the periphery, like the favela, the poor neighborhoods. And I went to school too, studied. And from this period, I don't have good memories. I attended some dances and I can list the times I got with someone. So this again, this is another comment that has to be taken in consideration. Basically, they're saying that when you're in the environment with when black women, they're saying when black Brazilian women are in environments where there are black men, if they don't have, buying power, they don't have a certain look, then the basic and the average guys get left behind. If they don't find that type of black man, then they're very open to, getting with some white guys. Again, we cannot know. I keep seeing this comment keep coming up over and over. I've seen it. I had it in another video. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Number 8, what are the powers and cultures associated with white people? I got a little lost. 9th, this is very complex. I'm 23 years old and I've never kissed a black guy. Listen to that right there. It's just that I dated white guys. I remember in high school, under the age of 10, they had those kissing games. It was kind of set up. It was me and a black boy for the kiss, and we looked at each other and didn't kiss. Never again after that. I don't understand the sociological reasons, but this is my reality. So listen to what she's saying. There's so much that you can break down when people start talking about their memories. She's going back to when she was 10 years old, and she's put in this kissing game with a black guy, and they both avoided kissing each other. It's like, were they taught early on, nah, you don't want to be caught kissing a black person like yourself. Going, get one of the branquinos, get one of the brancos, right? One of the white people. So this is another issue that I have, because people want to just look at interracial as if it's just, okay, people just fell in love, but you can't just say that when person after person just recollects how they were engineered into preferring whiteness, right? This woman right here is saying she doesn't understand the reasons for this, but this is her reality. There was a previous article that I did that what people were asking, the writer of the article was asking, why is it that we're taught to throw in a towel at the smallest hint of trouble in a relationship with another black person, but yet we're willing to deal with fights and disrespect and all other types of shenanigans if they're dealing with a white person, just to have that white person at their side, which is, what the article was saying. 10th comment. May I ask where the love is? And doesn't the term palmitaging sound discriminatory? There's been articles online where people have taken offense with the term palmitaging or palmitero. People say it's offensive for you to give me this label because I happen to be married with a white partner. But the term continues to be very popular when they're talking about interracial relationships in Brazil. 11, so much whining. 12, listen to what this one says. It says, I'm waiting for my preto, my black man. They don't even show interest in me. And you got the emoji with the tear coming down. There's a lot of black women who feel this way. There are a lot of black women who are actually waiting for a black male partner. They never come along. So either they end up trying to get with a white guy or they end up just lonely for the rest of their lives. 13, sad, but all I see around me is palmiteros. This is something you constantly see people talking about. Everywhere they look, you find black people who prefer white partners. Now, this isn't something that I'm making up because obviously we see some of these comments pop up again and again. 14th, blacks with money and famous also only get with whites. I think we lost in something. Well, you know what? And if I'm not mistaken, this particular phrase is specifically speaking of negatives, black women. So this should say black women with money and famous also get with whites. Something that I pointed out in an article some years ago, where the question would be, the name of the article was like, how are black women pointing the finger at black men who get with white people when black women do the same thing? So this is something else and it's something that I've noticed also. In general, on both sides, when you see black celebrities, famous people, influential people, singers, rappers, actors, actresses, you see this preference for white partners on both sides. So I really do think people need to stop with this, just pointing the finger at black men when black men and black women in Brazil do the same thing. It's very rare that you see a black woman, an Afro-Brazilian woman, with a black partner. I say that's kind of rare too. I'll say it's slightly more common that black Brazilian women who are famous, rich and famous, or very influential will have a black partner. It's a little bit more. I think it's more common to see among black women, but at the same time, sometimes I feel like I can count on my fingers how many black women have black partners. Now, is that to say that in those circles, the black men they ran into just didn't give them the time of day? Or was it true that these black women actually have a preference for white men? Or is it just a thing that in these environments where it's mostly middle-class white people, there's very few people to choose from? I mean, this topic can go on and on. I've found a couple of other videos where people were talking about this. It's not just an open and shut case about this topic. That's why I'm always digging more to see what people are talking about. Let me see. 15. Exactly. I follow his reasoning and corroborate with the idea that there is a social, economic, cultural disparity behind it. When it comes to empowering yourself and forgetting where you came from or just forgetting that you are black, you are there among whites and other rich blacks, and you create a separate environment. The so-called new versions of each one emerges. It's necessary to become aware and seek means for those blacks who climb up to throw down the ropes that others can climb too. Equity is the name of this. Okay. So these are the comments to, not only what this guy had to say, but also to the opinions of others who commented on it. And so there was one other comment that I forgot to mention here. Let me see if I can find that comment because it was actually on the Reddit page, the Brazilian Reddit page. So let me just check and see if I can find that actual comment that this guy made. Okay, so here's the article that I found. People were actually commenting on the same post, and this is over at the Brazilian the Brazil link to being discussed on the Reddit website. So this is what one particular guy had to say. There's a lot of comments here, but this one in particular caught my eye. So check out what he had to say. He says, "Dude, I'm black." And black women never paid me any attention. I always got with white or morena women. Morena being, could be light brown, could be mixed. I always got with white or morena women, branca or morena. He says, today I am married to a white woman. And I can say this, most of the time, black women expect a standard black man. Again, this preto tipo A, they call him, a standard black man. He's 2 meters tall. That's like 6'6", maybe, strong with a 30 centimeter, I would say, pocket rocket. That comes out to almost 12 inches. Say you got to have 12, you got to be packing 12 inches and have a six-pack stomach. That's the reality. So this is what this guy had to say. So again, this is the same thing that a lot of people are saying when the conversation is about what Black women have termed the loneliness of Black women. And people are saying, no, if you just want to get with a Black man, there's plenty of Black men to go around. It's just that you don't want just the average guy. You want somebody who has everything. It's a similar conversation that's going on in the United States. So I want to check out this. Okay, so as I said, I consistently run into these comments. You know, if you dig, you'll consistently come across some of the same things that people are saying. So this is from the post that I did in the video that I talked about this, where I think this was about the influence. Yeah, interracial unions in Brazil. How does the family influence the choice of a white spouse? So check out what these people had to say right here, because again, it plays into, as I've said, we can't just throw this whole thing on Black men and say it's just Black men's fault, because you listen to what the comments say and you get what I'm talking about here. So the first comment says, I see some Black women having several criteria getting with Black men. And when the guy is white, this doesn't seem to exist that much, which is the same as what Black men do. They accept absolutely horrible, silly looking white men, extremely uninteresting. But then he becomes a savior because he, quote unquote, wanted a Black woman, since the interesting white woman or interesting white women don't want him either. So listen to what she said. This is apparently this is a woman. I can't really tell. I think that's a woman's profile picture. Then when you go a little bit further, let me see here. Okay, right here, this guy calls himself Black Haley Dodgy, or Black Reality. So he says, of course, Black women will live in solitude. They only seek and notice prominent Blacks, and there are not enough prominent Black men for everyone. They would rather live in solitude and whimper that they are alone than accept that ordinary little Black man who is socially invisible. I have several Black female friends who have adhered to this discourse of loneliness, but their Instagram profiles are full of likes and compliments from Black men. But because they are Black men of low social and economic value, they don't care. Now, when a prominent Black man gives her a compliment, they even print out the screen, of the comment and post it to show that they were noticed by a guy of high social and economic value. Okay, so here we go again with the discussion of the high value Black man. So all I'm saying is we can't ignore what these people are saying. When this discussion comes up, inevitably, you're going to have some Black men who speak on them being ignored by Black women. Like, okay, what about our side? So this is the video that I posted where that comment came from in Brazil. How do Black families influence the choice of white partners for their children? Here, I've talked about this article. The validation we want is usually white. And this is explaining why Black romantic relationships tend to be complex, because one or both partners in a Black relationship may have a secret desire that, only white people will do for them. Okay. This was another, let me see if I can find. Okay. This was another intriguing article. This is from a couple of months ago, where this Black, I think she's a psychologist. And this is intriguing because she's been pondering this question as well. And she recollected having this discussion. And she says, once a long time ago, I heard from an Afro-Colombian living in Brazil the following statement. Dig what he's saying. This is an Afro-Colombian man, a Black Colombian who's living in Brazil, who obviously has hung around and has immersed himself in the culture and just the everyday lives of Black Brazilians. So this Black Colombian living in Brazil had the following to say, quote, Black women don't accept a concrete fact that they prefer Black men and get with white men because of a lack of option. Black men like white men Black men like white women and Black women. And in fact, we prefer white women because they are less problematic, they are more functional, and that's why you are jealous of white women. The psychologist listening to this Colombian man say this, it was painful. It was a painful line to hear, but it seemed like the real unraveling of what most Black men think about us and hide. For the first time in my life, I stood before an honest Black man and somehow I thanked him. It was pedagogical. So this actually came from a Black Colombian man living in Brazil. And this is one thing that I've said when I have these discussions with Black Brazilian men. I rarely do I hear somebody be as precise and honest about what they're thinking about the question. When this discussion comes up with Black Brazilian men, they often just go and hide behind a more no core discussion, or phrase saying love has no color. But I'm saying, what I mean to say with this whole thing is that we do have to listen to both sides. You know, why is it that we always see prominent Black men always marry white women in the Brazilian context? Okay, we know what the women are saying, but now I want to hear what the men are saying. So, um, wondering what you all thought about today's article. With that said, I am going to end this video here, and I'm going to ask you to, drop your thoughts in the comment section. Consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already, and you've seen more than a few videos that you learned something from or you enjoyed. Share this video, like this video. Definitely click on that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I put up another video. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and invite you to check out my next video.